It's time for a movie review, and I'm going to review this morning Out of Blue from 2019, directed by Morley, a director that I've got a lot of time for. She was also responsible for the screenplay, and it's based on a book by Martin Amis called Night Train. And the cast. Let's get on to the cast. In the lead role is Patricia Clarkson, and she's Detective Mike Houlihan. Toby Jones plays Professor Ian Strummy. Jackie Weaver is Miriam Rockwell. James Caan plays Colonel Tom Rockwell. Marmy Guma is Jennifer Rockwell. Aaron Ertevit is Tony Silvero. And there are a few other members. And of course, as always, there will be a slide with details of all the cast for this particular movie. Typical murder mystery. Well, that's what one suspects at the beginning. This script written by Morley is based on that novel. On the face of it, it's a murder mystery, but it's a lot more to it than that. And it's an intoxicating watch, to say the least. Initially, I had difficulty following the early exchanges. The movie starts on a rooftop at night, and where a group of strangers, stargazers, are involved in looking up at the sky. And we are listening to one Jennifer Rockwell, a brilliant astroscientist, who's talking about things such as black holes, Schrodinger's cat, which apparently is an experiment, a paradox experiment. So if you can imagine, if you put a cat in a box with a deadly poison, after a while you don't know whether it's dead or alive. Well, that's the paradox. And cat stars connect with the humans. And that's what quantum mechanics states. So now you know. In essence, it's about the death of this astroscientist. And it's investigated by one Detective Mike Houlihan, played brilliantly by Patricia Clarkson. But later, as she starts to piece things together by interviewing a list of suspects and family-related members, she starts to move away from this idea that it's a sort of hand-in-glove murder to a possible suicide. And she's driven to explain why, in the light of this woman's having a successful career, has she perished? Mike wants desperately to get a full explanation as a disturbing motive that led to this tragic end. And we have a collection of oddball characters, likely suspects for a murder or contributors perhaps to a suicide. Jennifer's parents, her father, Colonel Tom Rockwell, he's played by James Caan. Nice to see him back. He's an army veteran and he walks with a limp, a prisoner of war. He's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. And his wife, Miriam, played by Jackie Weaver, she adds snippets to the plot as the film unfolds, and the highlights that she's not exactly consistent in her recollection of. Jennifer's childhood, for example, is an aspect where explanation is, to say the least, contradictory. And then there are the work colleagues, of course. Professor Strummy, played by Toby Jones. He's got a lot of quirks and idiosyncrasies. The more you see of him, the less likely he's an innocent bystander. Initially, he is a suspect, and then there's Tony Silvero, a physics teacher, Jennifer's boyfriend. He's taken into custody as a possible suspect. He can't recall any of the events that happened on the day that she died. And finally, there's Jennifer's twin brothers, a real kooky pair, a real amalgam of personality disorders. And there's a disturbing portrait of the family in the family home. Suggests a very dysfunctional family unit. Now, Mike, she's a woman who always wanted to be a homicide detective, as she lived in peril, in fear of her life. So this she sees as a way to be safe. her childhood may answer why, but later on in a dream sequence near the end, it tells us more. And throughout the film, although she experiences frequent feelings of nausea, and we also, from time to time, she faints, and also has extreme abdominal pains, none of which are really fully explained. A psychological reaction to trauma, perhaps, and she has this feeling of being dead and alive at the same time. There are elements of Hitchcock in this movie in terms of who's done it, but it also, for me, had a touch of David Lynch's Twin Peaks style, the 5-star drama series. And also, more recently, True Detective also came to mind. It's a particularly difficult watch, but ultimately a thought-provoking viewing. A very intriguing movie, and one that above all provides a performance by Clarkson that's 5-star. So, get to watch it. It's called Out of Blue. It was released in 2019.